Welcome to Obsessed with Success, starring Russell Morgan.
Hello, and welcome back to Obsessed with Success with Russell Morgan. Russell is the founder and CEO of Morgan Legal Group, one of New York's premier estate planning firms, and a mentor to attorneys who run their practices with precision. I'm Kevin Rosenquist, and today's episode looks at the quiet ways profit slips away inside daily operations. Russell, great to see you.
Kevin, great to see you as always.
So when you refer your firm's numbers, what small expenses or habits tend to erode margins the fastest?
You're going to start with the heavy hitters. It's got to be your marketing expenses first. You're going to have these little pockets of things that you may be spending money on, you may not even know about. Marketing is probably at the top. Lawyers in particular have a ton of things that we pay for that we hope will work. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. That just we forget about. It could be some sort of directory or some sort of banner or something online that is minutia, but they add up. You stack 2, 3, 4, 5 of them per month, 10 of them per month, and now your $50 bill is a $500 bill because you're spreading yourself out a bit. But it's also the things that we don't necessarily pay attention to that are heavier expenses, your operational costs. You may be using certain softwares or certain platforms that you may have needed in the past, and now you don't need them anymore, for better or for worse. Maybe you changed gears, maybe you changed to a different platform, but you're stuck in contract. Or you're just too lazy to go and cancel the agreement, because you're too busy out there being a business person and practicing if you're in the business of practice. So, but these things really at the end of your year or at the end of your quarter, this minutia adds up, and it's not minutia anymore. Now we're talking about hundreds, if not thousands of dollars, and it could be per month or it could be per year that you could be considering profit or reinvesting or using for something other than just dead weight, just expenses that your company doesn't need. Your operational expenses need to be airtight. Your marketing and advertising needs to be airtight. Your employment needs to be airtight, legally and cost per acquisition. So I would take a good look, especially right now, because we're dealing with end of year closeout. Maybe you'll find some time in January so that these things that maybe we're not giving so much weight to, we can now apply towards something else and use it towards a different platform that you actually actively use, whether it's operations, marketing, advertising. Take a good look at your team and make sure that you require the assistance that you believe you require. And a lot of this really needs your input. You can only delegate so much. Nobody's paying attention to your bottom line the way that a business owner is going to pay attention to it.
Absolutely.
So if you can find the time, do it yourself. If you cannot or simply don't know how to, hire a professional.
Have you ever spotted a profit leak at Morgan Legal Group that surprised you once the data made it visible?
Of course, there are always profit leaks. Surprising profit leaks are going to depend case by case. Sometimes you go very heavy on certain projects or certain cases, or certain campaigns that you may be running, and they don't come out as profitable. And it could be exposure. It could be something related to management or reputation or marketing. Or it could be a case that you went really, really deep into and hoped that you were going to come up positive on the other side, and you didn't. And look, that's the cost of doing business. So yes, of course, like any other company, we have had our profit leaks and losses. The key is to keep them short and sweet and catch the leaks while they're small before they turn into giant waterfalls where we can't stop the leak anymore because it's too late.
Mm-hmm.
Pay attention to your books, pay attention to your bottom line, and make sure that anything that looks like it could be a profit leak, take a second look. It's worth the profit leak.
Many attorneys assume strong revenue means strong profit. What usually creates that gap between top line and take home?
This is one of my favorite conversations, talking about revenue versus profit, because it's colossal day and night difference. Oftentimes people think doing more and generating more revenue will automatically equal more profit. And unfortunately, that's not always the case. And it comes back to that same weight that you're carrying. When you're running a larger company, just inherently, you're going to have bigger expenses. Whether that's going to translate to bigger profits on the other side, only you can see at the end of the day. So a lot of the times it's carrying costs. Whether you do well in January and February or you don't, you're going to have your overhead. You're going to have to pay your staff. You're going to have to pay your rent or your mortgage, depending on where you are. So those things don't change. So good month or bad quarter, you're still going to carry those costs. And that's what usually creates that weight. If you don't study your numbers and you don't study your analytics, your peak seasons and your low seasons, there's no way for you to plan for something that is unexpected. And that's what usually causes these giant gaps between revenue and profit. Something is not working in your 4 pillars of success. Something in your company is just not materializing to profit. And usually it's operational expenses, because those are usually what we need to keep afloat no matter what. That doesn't necessarily mean that your operation expenses are killing your profit. There may be another reason out there why you're not doing as well as you should be doing, but notwithstanding, you still have to carry those costs. So before you sign on the dotted line and agree to that additional overhead, take a good look and understand that oftentimes what you're doing it to yourself. And at the end of the day, you need to make sure that before you sign on the dotted line, your projections warrant that additional expense, so that you're not kicking yourself in the for adding on, whether it's additional marketing or advertising or operations or employment expenses a year later or 2 years later or a quarter later. Hopefully you're reviewing your books every quarter for all the listeners that pay attention, so we can catch it early. And stay meticulous. It doesn't matter how big you are. Revenue is great for big companies that are operating on small profit margins. If you're a regular business owner, you're paying attention to your bottom line, you're paying attention to your profits. And to some people, it may seem like the same, but they are day and night. You can have a company that's generating $10 million in revenue at a 5% profit versus a company that's generating $5 million in revenue at a 30% profit. And in the first example, we have 500,000 worth of profit. In the second example, we have $1.5 million worth of profit. And their operational expenses, I would guess, on the company that's producing $5 million are substantially lower than the company that is producing $10 million. Mm-hmm. So you have to pick which one is your priority. Are we growing for the sake of growth, which will translate to revenue, or are we growing for the sake of profit? And which one is more important to you? And look, there are good reason for both. Certain companies, when they're looking for investors or they're looking for a buyout or they're looking for a public offering to hit the stock market, they're looking to increase their revenue. But regular businesses, in most cases, are paying close attention to their profit and their bottom line. So to all of our listeners who are business owners and aren't hitting the stock market or aren't looking to climb the ladder and bring in additional capital, pay attention to your profits. Those are the things that will carry you through the next quarter and hopefully through the next year.
Where do you see the biggest return when a firm starts tightening the controls?
I would say first, operationally. When you start tightening your controls, you're taking the reins back and you're starting to see some of that enthusiasm back in your staff. Letting go of the reins too much is also not great. I'm all for delegating, and I'm all for supporting growth. But when you're not careful and you're not paying attention, sometimes people fall off track. So when we start tightening the reins again, you'll see a slight uptick in performance. And hopefully that's consistent. And if you're paying attention, you can understand what was the cause of it. Was it because we weren't paying attention, or was there some underlying issue that we can cure and use this to better our methods? Tightening the reins is not a bad thing as long as there's a reason for it. And usually when we're tightening the reins, there's good cause. And while you're doing it, take a look at your entire operation, at all four pillars, to make sure that if we're tightening on one end, we're not leaving loose ends on any of the others.
When it comes to technology, I know we you and I have talked a lot about technology, AI tools, all sorts of great stuff out there that can help people. Balancing the technology versus the process itself. Obviously, you need both, but what are there tools that truly help, or do you feel the process needs to be in place before tools are even going to help you?
Your process must be in place. I am all for tools and technology and artificial intelligence. It's the new wave. It's the next wave. It's where everything's going. But you still need operators. You still need human touch. You still need to make sure that somewhere and everywhere really within your system and your operations, your employee management, your client experience, your marketing and advertising, there has to be a human element. Who's creating the tech? Who's creating the AI? At the end of the day, it's people. And who is the end user? The end user is going to be another person. And if you're in a retail business or you're in a commercial business, it's still a person. It's just a different type. If you're in retail, your target audience is different from someone who's in commercial. So even if you're implementing all this incredible technology that's out there, you still need to make sure that there is a human operator at the front and at the end. I don't know about you, and we talk about this a lot. Nothing frustrates me more than having to deal with an automated system. The only thing I want to do is just talk to a human. And the problem is most time, if you guys had just put a person behind this tech, your time spent on managing your clients is probably going to be less than the amount that it would take with the tech. Yep. And technology is not cheap. AI is not cheap. All of these systems that are in place, they look pretty with a bow on it, but they cost a lot of money. And most of the time, you still need to have manpower behind it. So it works to an extent, but we still need to make sure that at the beginning and at the end where you're operating and when it hits the other side to your clientele, that we still have a human element, if not for anything else, but to run interference and get feedback from the other side and understand, is this working or not? And if it's not, what can we do to improve it?
Obviously there's different size operations out there. We talk about all the time, 1 million, 5 million, 10 million, but for attorneys who are running pretty lean operations, what do you feel is the most practical way to audit expenses?
Just read your books. It sounds so simple, but
yeah, it does.
Don't do it. Just sit down and read your bank statements. Nobody wants to do math. I understand, but everybody wants to make money. Everybody wants to take a profit home. So if you want to keep it lean, sit down and do it on your own and really understand, why am I spending this money? Is it necessary for my maintenance? Is it necessary for growth if you're expanding? Or is it something that I'm just paying for the sake of paying in case I ever need it? And if it's the latter, just cut it. If you're not using it, it could be money that you use for something that is useful, or just take home or reinvest. So just sit down with your books, take the time. Yes, it's not the most fun thing in the world.
Not a page turner.
Exactly. And we talk about this a lot. It doesn't matter what size you are. You have to have bookkeepers in-house. There are legal reasons that you need to have bookkeepers and accountants in place. And there are practical reasons for delegation purposes, so you're not doing it on your own. But you can't just hand over the keys without oversight. Even if you do have a bookkeeper or you're working with an accountant or a CPA or an EA, they're still reporting back to you. And I would hope that you're not taking it on face value and that you're actually reviewing what's coming back for accuracy. Even if they're the best in their industry, you want to make sure for your own peace of mind that what they're telling you is accurate. And that if there is something that you believe, because nobody knows your business better than you, nobody knows the ins and outs better than you. If there is something that you can make leaner, implement it and do it now. Because it's something, putting it off till tomorrow means we're going to run through another month of expenses. And if it's not necessary, utilize that money somewhere else or take it home and use it for your family. Reinvest it, put it into an investment account, something that's actually earning you more interest rather than just an expense that isn't really producing or adding any value to your company.
So obviously, fixing the leak is important, but it's not just fixing the leak. You got to stay on it. How do you keep it from reopening after 6 months, a year, 2 years?
Maintenance. As many businesses as I have been involved in and as am involved in, all of them require oversight. It doesn't matter whether you have outside professionals, they still need you. No one will run your business like you. No one else has a vested interest in your success except you. And remember that for the rest of your life. Relying on someone else to make sure that you're doing well, yes, you're paying them for a service, but they're not going to make sure that you're successful. They'll do their job. They'll make sure they do it right if they know what they're doing. But nobody's success is dependent on anyone other than you.
Yeah, I've known people, I've worked for people who can't understand that concept that, yeah, you're paying someone to do a job. Absolutely, they should do the job and they should do it right. But they don't have the same view of the company, of the business that you do, and they never will, no matter what. It's just impossible.
It's because they don't have an interest in your success.
Right.
You're responsible for your success the same way you're responsible for your failures. People don't see the failure or the success. They only see the accolades. They don't understand what it takes to get there. And nobody's going to do it for you. You have to build your momentum. You have to build up your success brick by brick and pay attention, because those failures, if you're resilient, will be learning lessons that you can use to then turn into successful moments and build a thicker skin. Failure is not the end of the road. Restarting is okay. Rebuilding, that's part of evolution. That's part of our constant adaptability that we're working on. Just take a look at what's happening right now with artificial intelligence. If you have paid any attention, I don't care if you watch the news or not, we are moving at lightning speed. The 90s and the internet have nothing on what's happening right now.
Agreed.
And that should speak to you as a business owner, so you understand that we're moving at a different rate, and either you're in or you're out. If you're not keeping up, that's no one's fault but your own, and you have no one to blame but yourself. By the same token, if you're paying attention, your success is imminent. Stop doubting yourself. Positivity will always bring positivity. Negativity will always bring negativity. Focus, stay lean, stay driven, and adapt at every turn, hopefully in advance of any change.
Mm-hmm. That makes a ton of sense. As always, thank you for that, Russell. And thank you for joining us on Obsessed with Success. Profit isn't made through growth. It's protected through discipline. To learn more about Russell Morgan and the Morgan Legal Group, visit morganlegalny.com. If today's conversation gave you new ways to see your numbers, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share our show with another attorney who's building a firm. Russell's also out there on all major social media platforms. Russell, where can people find you?
You can find us at morganlegalny.com 24 hours a day at 888-529-1315 or on any social media platform at Morgan Legal NY. Till next time on Obsessed with Success.
Thanks, Russell.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.